The room went silent when the queen raised her hand. Not because she demanded silence, but because no one spoke when she was about to decide who stopped existing. The council chamber was carved from stone and restraint. No banners. No symbols. Power here was not announced, it was understood. 12 seats circled the long table. All were filled. All eyes faced forward. At the center sat Yoon Hae-rin. Young, controlled, unmoving. She did not lean back like men who needed to perform authority. She sat upright, hands resting lightly on the table, posture precise. Her expression revealed nothing, not impatience, not cruelty, not doubt. She had been raised to rule systems, not people. Kneeling several feet away stood the man they had dragged in before dawn. He should have been shaking. Men usually did at this point. Some pleaded. Some cursed. Some promised loyalty they should have offered earlier. Fear announced itself in predictable ways. But this man did none of them. He knelt because the guards had ordered him to, but his spine remained straight. His hands rested calmly on his thighs. His breathing was slow, measured, as though he were waiting for a meeting to begin rather than an execution to be approved. That was the first disruption. Hae-rin noticed everything. Patterns. Deviations. Silence where noise belonged. She lowered her raised hand slightly. "State the charge," she said. Her voice was level. Unhurried. A senior lieutenant stood. Unauthorized access to internal security architecture. Independent audit without clearance. Potential exposure of protected routes. The room absorbed this. Hae-rin's gaze shifted back to the man. "You access systems that were not yours," she said. "Why?" He lifted his eyes, not defiantly, not submissively, just enough to meet hers. "Because your people are lying to you." The room reacted instantly. A sharp inhale. A chair scraping back. One of the guards took a step forward before stopping himself. No one spoke out of turn in this room. Hae-rin did not react. She studied him the way one studied a problem that refused to fit its category. "Most men," she said calmly, "use their final moments to ask for mercy." "I'm not asking for mercy," he replied. That was the second disruption. "What are you asking for?" she asked. "For time," he said. "And permission to finish what I started." A quiet murmur rippled through the council before dying just as quickly. The lieutenant who had spoken earlier stiffened. "Finish what?" Hae-rin asked. "To show you," the man said, "that your empire is secure in the ways that impress your enemies, but exposed in the ways that will destroy you." Silence returned. Thicker now. Hae-rin leaned back for the first time. "You're aware," she said, "that I could order your death for less than this conversation." "Yes," he said. "That's why this conversation matters." She watched him carefully. No tremor. No bravado. No attempt to dominate the room with words. Only certainty. "You know who I am," she said. "Yes." "And you still chose this approach." "Yes." "Why?" "Because you don't rule through fear," he answered. "You rule through order. And order depends on truth." That landed. Not loudly, but deeply. Hae-rin glanced briefly toward the lieutenant. Just long enough. Then she looked back at the man. "What is your name?" "Adeyemi Cole." "Not Korean." "African." "Foreign." "Interesting." "You will not be executed today," Hae-rin said. The room froze. Not relief. Shock. She raised a single finger before anyone could speak. "This is not mercy," she continued. "This is a delay." Her eyes locked onto Adeyemi's. "You will complete your audit," she said. "Under supervision. Any attempt to flee, communicate externally, or manipulate findings will result in immediate erasure." "Yes," he said simply. "You will not be protected," she added. "If my people decide you are a liability, I will not intervene." "I wouldn't expect you to," he replied. That was the third disruption. Hae-rin studied him for a long moment. Then she lowered her hand completely. "Take him," she said. "Alive." The guards moved. As Adeyemi was led from the chamber, Hae-rin remained seated, expression unchanged. But something in the system had shifted. And she felt it. If this story has you leaning closer, if the tension already has its grip on you, supporting the channel helps more than you know. Like, comment, and subscribe to Afro Tales for more cinematic stories where power, loyalty, and survival collide. Adeyemi did not ask where they were taking him. People who asked questions at this stage believed answers offered protection. He had learned long ago that answers only created new risks. The corridor beyond the council chamber was narrower, quieter. No ornamentation. No cameras visible, though he knew they were there. This was not a place designed to impress. It was designed to function. 2 guards walked ahead. 2 behind. Professional. Silent. The elevator descent took longer than expected. The kind of delay that wasn't mechanical, it was deliberate. A reminder. When the doors opened, the air changed. Cooler. Filtered. Clean. A subterranean operations level, if he had to guess. Not a dungeon. Not a prison. Infrastructure. The guards led him into a glass-walled room furnished with a single table, 2 chairs, and a wall-sized screen currently dormant. No restraints. No theatrics. They left without a word. Adeyemi stood still for several seconds after the door sealed. Not because he was afraid to move, but because he was listening. Ventilation rhythm. Power hum. Subtle vibration through the floor. A system like this had a heartbeat. The screen flickered to life. Yoon Hae-rin appeared, seated elsewhere. Different room. Same posture. You have 12 hours, she said without preamble. After that, your value will be reassessed. Adeyemi nodded. That's generous. It's sufficient, she replied. You claimed my empire is exposed. Begin. The screen shifted. Schematics appeared, shipping routes, port authorities, layered shell companies. The public architecture of power. Adeyemi didn't touch anything yet. Before I do, he said, we need to clarify something. Her gaze sharpened slightly. You are not in a position to negotiate. I'm not negotiating, he said calmly. I'm defining scope. Silence stretched. Proceed, she said. You have built redundancy around physical threats, Adeyemi continued. Assassinations. Raids. Rival syndicates. That part is excellent. He finally stepped forward, activating the interface. But your real vulnerability isn't force, he said. It's assumption. He highlighted a logistics hub in Southeast Asia. This port hasn't been compromised in years, he said. Which made your people stop looking at it closely. The image zoomed. Your internal reports say it's clean, Hae-rin said. Yes, he agreed. Because the compromise doesn't touch your books. He pulled up a second layer. Then a third. Hae-rin's expression didn't change. But her eyes did. This routing protocol, Adeyemi said, was mirrored externally 6 months ago. Not stolen. Copied. Quietly. That's impossible, she said. No, he replied. It's improbable. There's a difference. The screen populated with timestamps. Authentication logs. Micro-delays. You assumed loyalty, he continued. And loyalty is the most expensive assumption there is. Hae-rin leaned forward slightly. Who did this? She asked. Adeyemi shook his head. That question comes later. She didn't like that. I don't answer riddles, she said. And I don't survive them, he replied. So I don't ask you to. Another pause. You're confident for a man with no protection, she observed. I'm confident because killing me now won't solve the problem, he said. It'll just blind you to it. She studied him for a long moment. Continue, she said. Hours passed without either of them acknowledging time. Adeyemi worked methodically. No showmanship. No dramatics. He explained only what was necessary. Every sentence carried weight. Hae-rin interrupted rarely, but when she did, it was precise. You're isolating internal access, she noted at one point. Why? Because the threat isn't entering from outside, he said. It's already inside and waiting for permission. That implies my own people. It implies some of them, he corrected. She did not argue. At the 9th hour, Adeyemi paused. This is where things become uncomfortable, he said. They already are, she replied. He brought up a final data layer. Names did not appear. Patterns did. Your lieutenants don't know they're compromised, he said. They're being used as blind relays. Orders pass through them without leaving fingerprints. And the purpose, she asked. To prepare your removal, he said quietly. That landed. Not as shock. As inevitability. They're waiting for a trigger, he continued. A moment when instability justifies intervention. Heron leaned back. So you believe, she said, that someone intends to decide for me? Yes. And you believe, she continued, that you're the only reason I now see this. I believe, Adeyemi said carefully, that you already suspected it. You just needed confirmation you couldn't get from inside. Silence. Then, why you? She asked. He met her gaze through the screen. Because I'm not part of your world, he said. I can see its edges. And your price? She asked. He didn't answer immediately. Access, he said finally. Temporary. Controlled. Enough to finish mapping the threat. And after? She asked. He hesitated. Just slightly. After, he said, you decide whether I'm still useful. Heron studied him longer than before. You understand, she said, that proximity to me is more dangerous than distance. Yes, he replied. And you still want it? I want the truth finished, he said. Distance won't allow that. She stood. For the duration of this audit, Heron said, you will operate under my direct authority. Adeyemi's brow tightened. Meaning? Meaning, she said, you work where I work. You move where I move. You see what I see. That surprised him. You're placing me beside you, he said. I'm placing you where lies can't hide, she replied. The screen went dark. A second later, the door opened. A single guard stood outside. Follow me, he said. Adeyemi rose, adjusted his jacket, and stepped forward. As he crossed the threshold, he understood something clearly. He had not been spared. He had been moved closer to power. And closeness always carried a cost. Adeyemi learned the rhythm of the Queen's world within the first hour. Nothing moved unless it had already been cleared. Nothing spoke unless it had already been decided. Power here did not rush. It waited. They walked through corridors designed to feel neutral: stone, glass, muted light, but every angle controlled sight lines, every pause measured reaction. Adeyemi noted it all without comment. Heron did not look back to see if he followed. She already knew. Her office sat at the highest interior level of the compound, not exposed to the skyline but suspended inside it. No windows. Only screens, feeds from ports, markets, surveillance points stitched together into a living organism. This is not a privilege, she said as they entered. It's containment. Adeyemi inclined his head. Understood. She stopped near the central console. You will not record. You will not transmit. You will not move independently. And if I do? He asked. She turned. Then you disappear, she said simply. Quietly. Not a threat. A condition. Adeyemi nodded once. Fair. That earned him the briefest flicker of curiosity. They worked side by side, but never together. Adeyemi analyzed. Heron decided. She did not hover. She did not interrupt unless something mattered. When she asked questions, they were surgical. You said the breach relies on timing, she said, watching a logistics loop scroll across the screen. Explain. They're not stealing, Adeyemi replied. They're waiting. For what? For your reaction, he said. They're mapping your responses. How long it takes you to shut routes. Which assets you sacrifice first. Every decision teaches them something. Heron's jaw tightened. They want predictability, she said. They want permission, Adeyemi corrected. She absorbed that in silence. Hours later, a lieutenant entered Park Min-suk, one of her most trusted. He barely glanced at Adeyemi. Madam, Min-suk said, external markets are reacting to the port slowdown. Let them, Heron replied. Min-suk hesitated. A fraction too long. Adeyemi saw it. Heron did too. Is there more? She asked. No, Min-suk said quickly. He left. Adeyemi did not comment immediately. When he finally spoke, it was quiet. He's compromised. Heron didn't look at him. You're certain? Yes. Why? Because he hesitated before telling you nothing, Adeyemi said. Loyal men rush to reassure. Compromised ones calculate. She exhaled slowly. That makes 3, she said. You're still missing one, Adeyemi replied. She turned sharply. Who? He didn't answer. Not yet, he said. She studied him, weighing irritation against necessity. You enjoy withholding, she said. I enjoy surviving, he replied. Another pause. Then, unexpectedly, she laughed. Soft. Brief. You're dangerous, she said. He met her gaze. So are you. Night fell without ceremony. The compound dimmed. Internal lighting shifted to operational mode. Guards rotated silently. Adeyemi remained in the analysis wing long after most staff withdrew. He hadn't been told to leave. That meant he was being watched. He worked anyway. Patterns emerged when he stopped looking for villains and started tracking permission chains. Who approved delays? Who rerouted assets? Who touched systems they didn't need to? One name surfaced repeatedly. Not Minsuk. Someone closer. He saved the data locally. Then he waited. Heron returned just after midnight. You haven't eaten, she observed. Later, Adeyemi said. She moved closer, studying the screen over his shoulder. This asset, she said. Why isolate it? Because it connects you to a financial corridor you don't officially control, he replied. Her eyes narrowed. Explain carefully. It's clean, he said. Too clean. It's been invisible for years. And now? And now someone else is using it to watch you, not steal from you. She straightened. Who? She asked. Adeyemi finally turned. You, he said. You're the blind spot. She stared at him. They're routing observation through your authority, he continued. Anything that moves because you allow it becomes invisible to oversight. That's impossible, she said. No, he replied calmly. It's elegant. Silence pressed in. If this is true, she said slowly, then my control is the vulnerability. Yes, Adeyemi said. Absolute control always is. She closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, the queen was gone. What remained was a strategist. Show me, she said. He did. The confirmation was brutal. Clean. Undeniable. Heron shut down the screen herself. For 20 years, she said quietly, I've ruled by ensuring nothing touched me without consent. And now, Adeyemi said, that consent has been weaponized. She turned to him. You're very calm for a man standing this close to execution, she said. I'm calm because you haven't decided yet, he replied. A beat. Why not kill me? She asked suddenly. He didn't pretend surprise. Because you need me, he said. That's not enough, she replied. No, he agreed. It's not. So why else? She pressed. He hesitated. Just enough to matter. Because killing me confirms everything I've shown you, he said. And you're not ready to accept that yet. She searched his face. Not for fear. For motive. What do you want, Adeyemi? She asked quietly. He met her gaze. I want to finish what was interrupted, he said. I want to see how power behaves when it's watched honestly. She studied him for a long time. You don't belong to anyone, she said. No, he replied. That's why this works. Another silence. Then, you will stay, she said. Until this is resolved. Understood. You will sit beside me during council, she continued. That surprised him. Why? He asked. Because whoever is hiding, she said, needs to see that you're protected. And if that draws fire? He asked. She smiled faintly. Then we'll see who shoots. The council chamber filled an hour later. Lieutenants took their seats. Voices murmured. Power rearranged itself into familiar shapes. Adeyemi stood at Heron's right. Visible. Deliberate. Eyes flicked toward him. Some curious. Some irritated. One afraid. He felt it. Heron spoke. We are restructuring access protocols, she said calmly. Effective immediately. Murmurs rippled. Minsuk stiffened. Adeyemi caught the reaction. There. That was the missing piece. The fourth name. The one closest. Heron's gaze swept the room. Compliance will not be optional, she continued. Minsuk opened his mouth. Then stopped. He felt it too. That something had shifted. Adeyemi leaned slightly toward Heron. It's him, he murmured. She didn't react. She already knew. After the council dispersed, Heron stood alone at the head of the chamber. Everything in my world, she said softly, was built to prevent betrayal. Adeyemi stood a respectful distance away. And yet, she continued, betrayal adapted. He didn't answer. She turned. You're not what I expected, she said. Neither are you, he replied. A pause. This ends one way or another, she said. Yes, Adeyemi agreed. It always does. And if the cost is higher than you anticipate, she asked. He met her gaze steadily. Then we pay it carefully, he said. She considered him, then nodded. The hunt had begun. The first rupture did not come from violence. It came from hesitation. Minsuk stood at the edge of the council chamber long after everyone else had left, his posture rigid, hands clasped too tightly behind his back. He was waiting. Heron noticed. Adeyemi noticed first. He's stalling, Adeyemi murmured. Yes, Heron replied quietly. Which means he's been instructed to. She did not turn around. She didn't need to. Send him in, she said. Minsuk entered alone. The door sealed behind him with a muted hiss that echoed longer than it should have. You asked to speak, Heron said calmly. Minsuk inclined his head. There are concerns about the restructuring. Concerns, she repeated. Yes, he said carefully. It may destabilize confidence. Whose? She asked. Minsuk hesitated. Adeyemi stepped forward, not aggressively, just enough to alter the geometry of the room. That pause, Adeyemi said, voice even, wasn't loyalty. Minsuk's jaw tightened. I don't answer to you. No, Adeyemi replied. You answer to patterns. And they've already spoken. Silence pressed down. Heron studied Minsuk with a gaze sharpened by 20 years of rule. You routed approvals through my authority, she said. You used my name as cover. Minsuk's composure cracked, not fully, but enough. You are becoming unpredictable, he said. That makes you dangerous. To whom? She asked. To stability, he replied quickly. Adeyemi shook his head once. That's not your language. Minsuk's eyes flicked to him. You're not supposed to be here, Minsuk snapped. You're an anomaly. Yes, Adeyemi agreed. That's why this surfaced. Minsuk exhaled sharply. You don't understand what's coming. Heron stepped closer. Then enlighten me. Minsuk looked between them. Then finally said it. There's a contingency, he said. Approved months ago. Heron's expression did not change. A contingency for what? She asked. For removal, Minsuk said quietly. Yours. The room went still. By whom? Heron asked. Minsuk swallowed. Not rivals. Not families. Then who? She pressed. He looked at Adeyemi. You, Minsuk said bitterly. People like him. The ones who don't belong anywhere. Adeyemi met his gaze steadily. That's not an answer. Minsuk laughed, sharp and brittle. It's the truth. You don't eliminate threats anymore. You manage them. Contain them. Erase them quietly. Heron closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, the queen was fully present again. Leave, she said. Minsuk froze. Madam. Leave, she repeated. Before you make this irreversible. Minsuk hesitated. That hesitation sealed his fate. The attack did not begin inside the compound. It began at the ports. Adeyemi saw it first, a cascade of micro-disruptions, too small to trigger alarms, but too coordinated to be coincidence. They're accelerating, he said. Heron was already moving. They've lost patience. They've lost cover, Adeyemi corrected. Security feeds flickered. External comms stuttered. A controlled chaos, meant to justify intervention. They want me isolated, Heron said. They want you exposed, Adeyemi replied. She turned to him. And you? They want me removed quietly, he said. Preferably by you. She didn't ask how he knew. What's the play? She asked. Adeyemi paused. For the first time since he'd entered her world, the answer carried weight. We stopped defending, he said. Heron stared at him. Explain. They're waiting for resistance, he continued. For proof you're unstable. If you fight this directly, you validate the contingency. And if I don't? She asked. Then they have to act openly, he said. And that's when they lose. She considered it. Then nodded once. Do it, she said. The compound shifted. Not into lockdown. Into silence. Routes were left open. Protocols loosened. Guards stood down just enough to look careless. Adeyemi watched the network breathe. They're watching, he said. Good, Heron replied. Let them see. Minutes stretched. Then, movement beyond the perimeter. Not syndicate muscle. Professional teams. Clean. Disciplined. They're not here for a war, Adeyemi said. They're here for extraction, Heirin replied. For you, he said. And for you, she countered softly. Adeyemi looked at her. You should leave, he said. Now. She shook her head. If I disappear, they win. If you stay, you risk everything. She met his gaze steadily. So do you. That landed. Not as romance. As alignment. The first breach was surgical. No alarms. No gunfire. Just systems going dark in a precise sequence. They've disabled oversight, Adeyemi said. Internal teams only now. Heirin didn't flinch. Good, she said. No witnesses means no confusion. She turned to him. Stay close. They moved together, not hurried, not slow. Guards fell back without question. Trust, when chosen deliberately, moved faster than fear. A corridor ahead erupted in controlled violence. Not chaos. Containment. Adeyemi watched Heirin move, not recklessly, but decisively. She wasn't a fighter. She was a commander. Orders flowed. People repositioned. Threats were redirected rather than destroyed. This isn't a coup, Adeyemi said quietly as they moved. No, she replied. It's a correction. A flash of movement to their left. A weapon raised. Adeyemi reacted without thinking, redirecting, disarming, using the attacker's momentum against him. The man hit the wall hard, unconscious. Alive. Heirin looked at Adeyemi. You don't kill, she observed. No, he said. I expose. She nodded once. They reached the central control chamber. Screens lit the room like a living organism under stress. Data poured in. Orders that bypassed hierarchy. Authorizations signed in her name. Heirin stared. They turned my authority into a weapon, she said. Adeyemi keyed in a final command. And now, he said, we reverse it. What happens next, she asked. Everything becomes visible, he replied. To people who don't like being seen. She exhaled slowly. Do it. He did. Across networks, the silence broke. Not with explosions. With exposure. Logs unlocked. Chains revealed. Oversight forced into daylight. The extraction teams froze. Their mission had changed. They weren't here to remove a liability anymore. They were inside evidence. They're retreating, Adeyemi said. Too late, Heirin replied. She turned to him. This ends tonight, she said. One way or another. Adeyemi met her gaze. Yes, he said. It does. Outside the chamber, footsteps approached. Decisive. Unavoidable. The final confrontation had arrived. The footsteps outside the chamber did not rush. That told Heirin everything she needed to know. They're disciplined, she said quietly. They have to be, Adeyemi replied. This failed. The doors opened. Not kicked in. Not forced. They were authorized open. 6 operatives entered unmarked, efficient, weapons low but ready. Not assassins. Not soldiers. Cleanup. The man at the front spoke first. Calm. Neutral. Madam Yoon, he said. This situation has escalated beyond acceptable parameters. Heirin didn't move. So I've been informed, she replied. You're required to step away from operational authority, he continued. Immediately. Adeyemi stepped forward. And if she doesn't, he asked. The man's gaze flicked to him. Then containment protocols proceed. Heirin smiled faintly. You're late, she said. And you're visible. The operative stiffened slightly. Adeyemi tapped the console once. Across the screens, live feeds split open, oversight committees, independent monitors, international compliance nodes all lighting up simultaneously. Nothing secret. Nothing deniable. You entered under a shadow mandate, Adeyemi said evenly. You're now standing inside evidence. Silence fell. One of the operatives shifted. That was all it took. You were authorized to remove instability, the lead operative said carefully. Not expose us. Heirin stepped forward. You used my authority to justify erasing me, she said. And now you're asking me to cooperate? The operative held her gaze. This is bigger than you. No, she replied. It's exactly my size. She gestured subtly. Security doors sealed behind the operatives. Not as a trap. As a pause. You're not prisoners, Heirin said calmly. But you're finished. Adeyemi watched their expressions change, not to fear, to calculation. They understood. This wasn't a fight. It was a loss. By dawn, it was over. Not violently. Thoroughly. Arrests were not announced. They appeared. Accounts froze. Permissions vanished. Orders stopped returning calls. The kind of collapse that didn't make noise, just removed gravity. Heron stood alone in the upper chamber as the city below woke unaware. "You didn't save me," she said quietly. Adeyemi stood a respectful distance away. "No. I gave you visibility." She turned to him. "And you?" she asked. "What did you gain?" He considered the question honestly. "Completion," he said. "I didn't want the system to win quietly." She studied him. "You were never trying to control anything," she said. "No," he agreed. "I was trying to end a pattern." Another pause. "You could stay," she said. "Help rebuild." He shook his head. "That world needs rulers," he said. "Not observers." She nodded once. "Respect. Not possession. Not obligation. Something rarer. Understanding." The days that followed reshaped everything. The Queen did not disappear. She transformed. Structures tightened. Authority clarified. Bloodlines cut where necessary. Silence replaced by compliance. It was not redemption. It was insulation. Power learned to move carefully again. Adeyemi watched none of it. He left before the headlines formed, before narratives could trap him in meaning. He passed through transit halls, daylight streets, places where nobody knew what had nearly broken the world they lived in. Weeks later, he sat in a cafe near a coastal terminal. A muted screen above the counter scrolled financial updates. A conglomerate announced restructuring. Oversight. New leadership principles. Analysts debated whether it would hold. Adeyemi finished his drink. Didn't smile. Didn't look away. Elsewhere, Heron stood alone in her office. No counsel present now, no immediate threats. Only glass. Only distance. When the secure line rang, she answered without hesitation. "Yes," she said. "I'm listening." The world did not become safer. It became more honest. And for some, that was far more dangerous. Because now they knew. Control could be watched. Authority could be mirrored. And silence was no longer guaranteed. Somewhere, new systems were already forming. They always did. But now they would do so knowing one thing they hadn't before. Power survives only as long as no one stands close enough to see how it breathes. If you stayed till the end, you already understand. Stories like this don't end when the screen goes dark. Support Afro Tales by liking, commenting, and subscribing. More cinematic stories of power, loyalty, and survival are coming.